The episode begins with a scene from 2 days before the blackout, where Lloyd, Simcoe, and Simon prepare for the experiment and are ready to simulate the Big Bang Theory. Lloyd is optimistic to find out what all of their hard work was for, but Simon is cautious. At the same time, Simon receives a call from his mother informing him about the death of his father. Immediately, Simon goes to Toronto for the funeral, while Lloyd conducts the experiment. We see the plasma wake field spread across the Earth and run into another one, which is why the blackouts occurred. Back to the present, Lloyd appears on a television interview program to talk about what happened on October 6th. He says that although future ideas are fluid and not fixed, the future has a way of fighting back. The interviewer prods Lloyd until he concedes that the universe could bring about those possibilities regardless of how humans try to prevent them, just like Algo did when he killed himself to save Celia Quinon's life. Lloyd defends himself by stating that Celia's case is one of the anomalies of the experiment. Mark and Demetri are also watching the interview and trying to figure out why Lloyd said so. Next, Simon is also keeping an eye on Lloyd's interview but is interrupted after he notices his sister, Annabelle, on the roadside. He stops his car and goes to his sister and requests her to come with him. Unfortunately, half a dozen laser lights are pointed at his sister and she is continuously asking him to provide her captors with whatever they are asking for. Her captors are actually demanding the QED ring present in the FBI back within 12 hours. Helpless, Simon leaves his sister there and leaves, not before memorizing the license plate of the captors. Meanwhile, Demetri meets up with MI6 agent Fiona Banks, who is looking into the 4th murder in Los Angeles of someone who lived past their original date of death. They find out that someone poisoned the murdered man's coffee with rat poison, and that the guy was supposed to pass away on March 2nd suffering from a severe allergy. All of the evidence symbolizes that one cannot live past their due date, and will eventually find their fate. For the two of them, discovering a flyer of the Blue Hands mob, the individuals who never had flash forwards because they were deceased, confirms that someone is attempting to ensure that these individuals reach their ends. In the next scene, Mark confronts Simon for bribing an employee to run the license plate of his choice, and states that it costs more than a weekend for them to run through a license plate. Simon tries to withhold his sister's situation from Mark, but Mark continues exposing him as a liar since he has a traffic cam recording of the real meeting between him and his sister. Mark then deduces that Simon's sister has been kidnapped and he has been compromised to complete some task to get his sister back. Next, Demetri and Banks meet Slingerland, the guy they previously questioned regarding the Blue Hand. At the moment, he is in his history class and immediately recognizes Andy Weeks, the victim of poisoning. Slingerland is a lot more helpful than the last time, especially when Demetri and Banks tell him about the killer who is targeting those who, like him, survived past their deadlines. At the hospital, Gabriel is being treated by Olivia for illnesses he picked from Dyson's experiments. Gabriel is convinced that Lloyd and Olivia are together as Lloyd is also present there. Gabriel is then questioned by Agent Vreed over one of the images he had in his notepad. The image is the same one that Gabriel saw in one of his flash forwards, and it is the Mosaic bulletin board that belongs to Mark. On the other hand, Bryce receives the happy news that his cancer has completely disappeared. At the same time, Nicole finds Keiko's information in the hospital records and decides to track her down. She is the same woman from Bryce's flash forward. Bryce wants to set aside his vision and focus solely on Nicole as he goes to inform her about his news and gives her a passionate kiss. Suddenly, Nicole begins to wonder if she should let him know about Keiko. Following the investigation, Demetri and Bank arrive at the coffee shop where Andy Weeks bought his coffee with a tall, geeky-looking man. They inquire with an employee there and find out that the geeky-looking man is none other than Slingerland. After this, Demetri and Bank immediately head back to the high school in search of Slingerland. Slingerland notices them and intends to do much more than simply leave. He makes an effort to rectify Celia, who marketed death escaping and living after her destined death date. Once Demetri realizes this, he sets out to find her. Before Slingerland can run over Celia, Demetri collides with his vehicle and stops him. Despite this, Slingerland pursues Celia to kill her and balance the rule of nature. Demetri shoots Slingerland and Celia is struck by a car being driven by Agent Banks. When Demetri approaches Slingerland, he tells him that the universe's rule must be fulfilled through any means and that it never fails to balance itself. He then dies, not before telling Demetri that he will also die soon. Back at the FBI office, Demetri is comforting Banks after she accidentally ran over Celia, but she remembers what Agent Go said about the bird that hit the glass in their different visions. In the meantime, Banks receives a call from the hospital informing her about Celia's health condition. She gets heartbroken after knowing that Celia has suffered several injuries, and has very little chance of survival. Afterward, Mark locates the potential hiding place for the vehicle in which Annabelle was taken. Simon wants to accompany him, but Mark does not put up with it because Simon has been lying to him from the start. Mark promises to track down Annabelle, and then meet with Simon to find out the truth. Simon flees after taking the QED ring from the FBI vault, while Mark fulfills his side of the plan by finding Annabelle in an abandoned warehouse. In the next scene, Mark sets off to visit Lloyd at his house to inform him of Simon's absence. Unfortunately, Olivia is also in Lloyd's house at the time, demonstrating to Lloyd the brain scans of the subjects during the flash forwards. She finds out that the flash forward has caused no brain damage in any of the patients. Since Gabrielle was so certain that they are dating, Lloyd asks her about being together. Hearing this, Olivia appears to be delighted, and they share a kiss. Suddenly, Mark arrives at the door and notices Olivia inside. Olivia pretends to leave and tells Mark that she was there to show the brain scans results of the patients concerning the flash forward. Mark then informs Lloyd about Simon's disappearance, and Lloyd notifies Mark that Simon returned home for his father's funeral at the time of the blackout. He further states that though he insisted he stay and suggested delaying the experiment, Simon insisted to continue it at the original time without him. Before leaving, Mark asks Lloyd if Simon is capable of creating another blackout. Lloyd then replies that Simon is capable of anything. Indeed, the FBI verifies that Suspect 0 is Simon's size, and that no flight plans or passenger lists were required for the emergency maintenance landing of a Canadian G4 aircraft in Detroit on October 6th. They conclude that the Suspect 0 is none other than Simon Campos. Finding this, Mark rushes to speak with Annabelle right away as she makes an effort to defend Simon. She eventually confides in Mark what she learned from her captors, and reveals to him that her captors want Simon to cause another blackout. The next scene opens up on the date April 28, 2010, a day before all the flash forwards are revealed. Wedek is at the office addressing his fellow agents and informing them that the building might be under attack tomorrow. But still, they will not back out and will be open for business. While assigning tasks to the agents, Wedek urges that Mark and Demetri will be in charge of the SWAT and sniper squads that will guard the outside. Later, they come across a video showing Simon moving about the baseball stadium in Detroit during the blackout. It's not the same video the FBI has, therefore someone else must have taken it. Mark and Vogel suspect why the other party is deciding to release the video at the very moment. Although the FBI is determined to find Simon, it seems the woman who hired Janice Hawk to spy on the FBI for them is a skilled recruiter. Lita, the recruiter, approaches Simon and removes him from the tavern where he is hiding and trying to change his identity. Janice meets with Vogel in a bar and informs him about Carline's request to assassinate Mark Benford. Vogel tells her that she can't refuse Carline, or they'll just get someone else to do it and kill her. Hearing this, Janice mentions that she doesn't want to murder Mark, but Vogel is at a loss to suggest her any alternatives. When Janice informs Vogel that they desire something significant, Vogel instructs her to provide it to them. In the next scene, Gabriel wants to speak with Mark at the FBI office about his Mosaic bulletin board, so Olivia and Gabriel arrive there to meet Mark. More precisely, Gabriel is there to talk about the differences between what he wrote in his notebook and what is different on the actual board of Mark's. Without a doubt, the awkwardness between Olivia and Mark is exacerbated by Gabriel's insistence that she belongs with Lloyd Simcoe, but they manage to get along. Gabriel's notepad has captured Mark's attention and is surprised to see his actual board in his drawings, so he wants to study it. Later, Zoe requests Demetri to travel to Hawaii with her, but Demetri seems reluctant to accept the offer. On the other hand, Demetri meets Janice and discusses her pregnancy and how he wants to be involved. However, Janice suggests he stay out of this and enjoy his life with Zoe. He insists even if she doesn't want him participating. Hearing this, she advises him to make the most of his second life with Zoe because he has been given one by conquering his death date. Elsewhere, in order to give Hellinger, the boss, ample time to arrive, Lita occupies Simon by taking him to a hotel. Simon wants to leave, but Lita and Hellinger both argue he has more to do for them. Back at the FBI, Gabriel has a sketch of Hellinger in his notebook, and he also mentions that Hellinger played a significant role in the blackout experiment. When Gabriel first meets Demetri, he is alarmed because he believes that Demetri cannot be alive if everything is to go according to plan. When Lloyd Simcoe arrives at the FBI, Gabriel further demands that he solve the equation by using mathematical calculations rather than relying on Simon to solve it, making him ponder for a while. Lloyd wonders if Gabriel could have glimpsed a portion of the equation he's been attempting to solve in one of his flash forwards. Meanwhile, Hellinger implores Simon to go back home and work for them, but Simon continues to resist. Hellinger reminds Simon that he is a wanted man and that his reputation has been destroyed. but Simon still appears uninterested. Hellinger treats him harshly while also reminding Simon that he has family on the line. Despite this, Simon does not budge and walks out of the room, leaving Hellinger and Lita behind. On the other hand, when Mark prints out Hellinger's images from Gabriel's notebook, Demetri worries that if enough people support the current course of events, Demetri will have to pass away tomorrow. Hearing this, Mark suggests Demetri worry less about the events, as they need not believe in them. Next, Wedek makes a connection with Aaron, who locates a Jericho camp, one of several in Afghanistan, exactly as Wedek planned. He finds that inside the camp they carry out the dirty labor that the American government cannot, such as torture with no restrictions. Aaron delivers Wedek the damning proof with photographs, and despite Wedek's objections, Aaron is prepared to enter the camp and get his daughter. At the same time, he notices 2 guards dragging Tracy into a vehicle while she is unconscious. Although they intend to bury her, Aaron intervenes and kills the 2 soldiers with a sniper rifle. He snatches Tracy and goes in search of safety. He then demands Kamir that they take a car back to Kandahar and search for medical help for Tracy. At last, Aaron and Tracy both find a shelter that they saw in their flash forwards. In the following scene, Caroline puts pressure on Janice because she is unhappy with her work and is concerned for the health and welfare of Janice's unborn child. To defend herself, Janice informs her about Gabriel, but Caroline seems to know him already. Caroline then orders her to bring Gabriel to her. Later, Gabriel mentions that he won't travel to the safe house without Olivia, so Janice is asked to arrange it. When Wedek speaks with Olivia, Mark approaches Gabriel and inquires if Olivia is going to be alright in the future he witnessed. Gabriel gives him the assurance that she was happy with Lloyd and all the flash forward he witnessed. Afterward, Mark, Demetri, and a crew get ready to take Gabriel to the safe house while Wedek offers President Dave an opportunity to confess about the pictures of Joshua Base that Aaron took. When Dave does not show any concern about it, Wedek is forced to transmit them to Vice President Clement. Later, Janice makes a call and reveals the strategy to her secret employers, giving herself a long, hard look in the mirror. While on the way to the safe house, Mark and the team are followed by 2 black cars. The cars surround them from both sides and open fire at them. Here it is revealed that Mark is impersonating Gabriel, and they successfully capture the attackers. With Mark continuing to pose as Gabriel, they travel to Hellinger. Hellinger is given a hint by his driver, and before he and the whole staff of the warehouse are taken into custody by the FBI, Hellinger initiates deleting the work data from his computer. Mark is prepared to search for Simon, and is asking about his location with Hellinger, believing that Simon is working for him. Meanwhile, it is shown that Simon is skulking off to another location, while carrying the QED ring with him. In the next scene, Mark returns to Janice and confronts her for her actions. Janice acknowledges working with the CIA and being hired by Vogel. It turns out that Mark was previously aware of her double agent status. Actually, Wedek and Mark were told about the intended ambush of Gabriel by Janice and Vogel. She also admits that her employers gave her the order to murder him. She attempts to use the CIA and the evil people as an excuse for pity, but Mark doesn't give a shit about it. She begs him not to even inform Demetri since she wants to handle that herself, and Mark agrees. At last, Janice meets Demetri and tells him everything. She believes that by becoming pregnant, she will be able to escape without any consequences. While Janice is adamant that there is no link between Demetri and her baby, Demetri is unable to accept this. Later, she returns home, where Simon confronts her and begs for assistance while pointing a gun at her. The episode ends with Demetri meeting Gabriel, who is staying at a rundown hotel. He inquires if Gabriel has ever seen him alive in one of his flash forwards. Honestly, Gabriel replies that he hasn't and defends it by stating that everyone needs to end up where they are destined to be, sooner or later. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn the notifications on so you won't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.